NOC codes, also known as the National Occupation Classification Codes. So if you've decided to migrate to Canada, then you need to provide information about your job, specifically in terms of the 4-digit code that IRCC requests. In this video, we'll learn how and where to locate your exact NOC code and how to use it to draft the reference letter from your employer. My name is Suyash, I live in Toronto, and I'm here to help you achieve your dream of making it to Canada. Okay, so the first thing to do is to get to this page, Find Your NOC on the Government of Canada website. It's linked in the description below, so click and follow along. It gives you a basic overview of all the types of skills, job duties and work that a person does that fall under various categories that are permissible for immigration. So it has type 0, which are restaurant managers, mine managers, shore captains, skill level A, which are doctors, dentists, architects, then skill level B and level C and so on. It doesn't really matter what skill level it is. What our purpose for this video is to help you find your code. Most of us applying for express entry will fall in this category, skill level A, because this category requires professional jobs that usually call for a degree from a university. So if you have a university degree, bachelor's or master's, that is a professional degree with a proper credit-based system, then you will qualify to apply under skill level A, and this would be the majority of applicants for express entry. You can read all about it. There's tons of videos explaining what skill level people fall under. It's not really going to make much difference to learn all that. The idea is to be able to find your exact NOC code. So let's not waste a single second and get to it, okay? So if you scroll down, you get to this page that says filter items, and this is a very broad level search system. Okay, so it's not going to be able to give you your exact NOC code, but if your job description falls in the higher level criteria that this page has, then you have a shot of getting your NOC code right from here. I'm not going to recommend use this page to find your NOC code, but you can try it to see for yourself. So let's say I were to look up technology, okay? It's a very broad level term. And as you see, I get 0 hits. Now you'd expect at least to get 50 hits from technology. There's so many technical jobs. And while the IRCC database has hundreds and hundreds of technology jobs listed under technology, it still doesn't give you any hits on this page, and that's why I don't rely on this page. Okay, what you should do is go to this NOC website. You see this link, go to the NOC website, click it, and this contains the entire list of occupations with NOC codes on this page. So this is where you should come to begin with, and you're very likely to find your job description linked to a particular NOC code here. Okay, so let's start with software. Okay, and as you can see, you get so many hits here. And basically this page gives you a tabular representation of the group of that job description, the broad occupational category, the skill level, and the titles that match that category. So these A level that you see here are the ones that you will be interested in if you're applying for express entry using your professional degree qualification. Okay, so this is what most of the express entry candidates would fall under. But even if you have an apprenticeship training or a vocational training or a college diploma, you can apply under the B skill level. That doesn't really make much difference, but this is where it starts to get granular. So let's say you are actually a software engineer. Okay, so just a broad cursory reading through this page gives us a software engineer and designer option, which is NOC 2173. So if you're a software engineer, then your NOC code is going to be 2173. Okay, but because software engineering is such a broad term and it has so many software jobs under its umbrella, to be sure if this is your exact code, you drill down, you go further in. So let's click on it, and then you will have this page. So this is a page that gives you all the detail about the software engineer and designer group, its summary, its titles that are possible under that job group, the main duties that correspond to that job group, and the employment requirements. Okay, so let's just go through this one by one. Software engineers and designers research, design, evaluate, integrate, maintain software applications, technical environments, operating systems, embedded software, information warehouses, telecommunication software. So these are basically keywords that correspond to this particular job code. So just by reading through the summary, if you feel that most of what you do applies here, you don't have a reason to go any further. Just select this 2173 job code as your NOC and move along. Okay, if you're not sure, then drill down even further. Okay, so the possible titles under the 2173 NOC code are application architect, computer software engineer, embedded software engineer, software architect, software design engineer, software design engineer, software design system integration, technical engineer, software engineer. It also includes systems architect. So if your job title is actually one of these and your job duties include the duties that are listed here, then go no further. You are good to select the 2173 NOC code. Okay, if your job title does not fall under the list that is provided here, and this is just a normal list with the most commonly used titles, it's not an exhaustive or a comprehensive list in any way. Okay, so your job title in your company could be completely different while still performing the same duties listed here, and that is why you should then look at these duties. So if you think you work as a software engineer and your duties include most, if not all, of the duties that are listed here, then you can still select the 2173 code even if your job title doesn't fall in the list that is given here. So make sure that whatever NOC code you select agrees with your actual job duties in your job profile. And that is why the main duties section becomes the most important. The titles are just names given by organizations, and we all know every company has a different set of naming conventions that it uses. But what doesn't really change are the duties. These duties are universal to profiles, right? So make sure that these duties are at least 70% similar to what your actual duties are, and then you can feel confident about listing the job code. Okay, so before we move on to the next one, there's also another page here that says exclusions. This basically means that if your job description falls under any of these categories, then you cannot use the 2173 NOC code. You will have to use these NOC category codes. Okay, so if I go back a page, I am back to this page when I search for software. Okay, so software gave me so many options and we just looked at 2173. Now let's look at 2174 and see what it's all about. So if you click here, it says computer programmers and interactive media developers. Okay, so if you read the summary, computer programmers write, modify, integrate, and test basic cursory reading tells me that this code 2174 applies to desktop and mobile app developers. So don't confuse the 2174 with 2173, which was software engineering, which we just saw a couple of seconds ago. And then if your title falls under any of these titles, even more confirming that this should be your code 2174. If you're still confused, you know what to do. Drill down and read the main duties. So if you're a computer programmer, your duties should be within this list. If you are a mobile developer, your duties should be within this list. Okay, and there is employment requirements also, where you have a bachelor's degree in computer science or in another discipline with a significant programming component, or completion of a college program in computer science is usually required. While this helps build your case, what really is important is your job duties. So make sure that these job duties really agree with your job code of 2174. So let's look at another one. Let's look at database analysts and data administrators, 2172. Okay, so the database analyst and data administrator 2172 is a code which is under the 217 umbrella of computer and information system professionals, which is under the 21 job code, major job code, which is professional occupations in natural and applied sciences, which is further under the natural and applied science and related occupations. So this natural and applied sciences is a broad category, and it gets drilled down to the most granular level of 2172, which becomes your job code. So always find the most granular level. That's the idea. So if I click here, view occupational profile, you'll be taken back to the same page with 2172 summary and description. So database analyst and data administrators. So your titles will most likely fall within this category: data administrator, data custodian, and then you do the same thing, read the duties, make sure you perform a major chunk of these duties in your actual role so that you can use this job code in your IRCC profile. Okay, so let's get to the exclusion list of the database profile, and let's look at one more before we switch gears. So web designers and developers, 2175. So you click here and then you'll get to the hierarchy page. There you can learn all about what umbrella it belongs to. And if you click on occupational profile, you'll be taken back to this page with the detailed description of web designer and developer job code, 2175. So if you design websites, JavaScript, HTML, this is your job code. It's very straightforward. Okay, so now we've talked enough about software and technology. Let's talk a little bit about finance and how to locate financial job codes. So what I'm going to do is I am going to go back to my job title here, and I am going to type in finance and see how many hits I get. Okay, there's so many hits I get. If you just go through these unit groups, this itself gives you a much better idea about what job profile you should drill down into. Let's say you work in one of those big four firms, PwC, Ernst Young, Deloitte, then you are most likely doing auditing work. Okay, so there's a job code here, 1111, financial auditor and accountant. Click here. If you drill down, it gives you a basic summary. Financial auditors examine and analyze the accounting and financial records of individuals and establishments to ensure accuracy and compliance with established accounting standards and procedures. Very straightforward. Example titles include accountant, chief accountant, auditor, tax expert, industrial accountant, internal auditor. If your job title falls under any of these titles, good. The next thing to do, scroll down and make sure these financial auditor or accountant duties agree with your actual responsibilities. Let's look at the last field before we move into the reference letter section. So if I go back a page and search for statistics, okay, let's say for people out there who work in a mathematical based field or biomedical field, then statistics is going to be a common factor for them. So statistics gives us 3 hits: statistical officers and related research support occupations. This is skill level B. Survey interviewers and statistical clerks, skill level C. Skill level A, the one that requires university education, the one that most of you will fall into, 2161, mathematicians, statisticians and actuaries. Actuaries are insurance. So let's click and see what we get. So 2161 gives you a detailed summary here. Mathematicians and statisticians research mathematical statistical theories, develop and apply mathematical techniques for solving problems in the field of science, engineering, business and social science. Actuaries apply mathematics, statistics, probability and risk theory to assess potential impacts of future events. Okay, the titles include actuary if you work in insurance and do risk calculation, biostatistician, work for a pharmaceutical company, participate in mathematical modeling for clinical trials, demographer, insurance actuary, mathematician, statistical analyst. Let's say you work for SAS, one of the biggest statistics based companies out there, and do modeling or clinical trial. This is the field you select. And then it has the same level of concept here. Exclusions are financial and investment analyst. So if you're a financial or investment analyst, your core function is financial or investment analysis, but you use a little bit of statistics for predictive modeling you don't qualify as a 2161 NOC code. Then you will actually have to go back to 1112, which we saw earlier. Okay, statistics should be the core of your job in order to qualify for 2161. It should not be just one tiny part of your job. Okay, that is why the exclusion list is so important. Okay, so now let's look at another very common job code, a job code that I used for my express entry profile. I worked in the banking industry as a business analyst for over 4 years, and that is the code that I use. So what code is that? So again, the procedure is similar. Go back to this page, scroll up and filter for business analysis or business analyst. So if I scroll down, I have two hits, 2171 and 4162. The 4162 applies to economists and economic policy researchers and analysts, whereas the 2171 applies to information systems analysts and consultants. This is what business analysis applies to on a broader spectrum. So let's look at that. Information systems analysts and consultants analyze and test system requirements, develop and implement information systems policies, and provide wide range of information issues. So the titles that business analysts field includes are computer systems analyst, informatics consultant, informatics security analyst, system business analyst, QA analyst, IT consultant, MIS analyst, system auditor, system consultant, system security analyst. So I have a feeling a lot of you will be applying under the business analyst job code. 2171 is your job code, as long as your job title includes one of these, or if it doesn't, as long as the duties agree with the duties listed here. As long as your major task is to collect requirements, create traceability matrix, conduct business technical studies, design, develop and implement business solutions, and then monitor their progress throughout the course of the software development life cycle, you are good to list 2171 as your NOC code. Okay, and this is the exact code that I listed in my express entry profile, and then I had to provide reference letters from my employers which agreed with the job duties here. So before we go to the reference letter, let me reiterate the importance of this page. National Occupation Classification page. This page, the one that looks like this is the page you want to do your search in. Okay, don't do your research on this page. Okay, it's going to give you very high level hits and you're not really going to get a lot of information. Okay, do your research on this page and you will get enough hits that you will be able to find your exact NOC code by using the same drill down procedure that we went over. Okay, so now let's talk about reference letters. So once you find your NOC code, what you must do is have your employer draft a reference letter that lists out the job tasks and responsibilities that correspond to your NOC code. Okay, then they sign it and they provide their contact information, and that's what you upload to your express entry profile. Okay, the problem here is if you work for a major company, a lot of these big companies have an automated system for generating work experience letters where they just give a brief summary of your tenure in that company and a very high level description which doesn't necessarily have to agree or look like the NOC code that you have listed, and that could be a problem. So while it's good to get that automated reference letter anyway, I would highly recommend that apart from that automated letter, draft a reference letter yourself and have your immediate supervisor or manager in your company go through that letter, approve of it and sign it, because that is what you are going to submit to the IRCC profile for your express entry application. Okay, remember the key thing is your reference letter should have the job duties which agree with the NOC code that you have chosen for your express entry application. Okay, so I worked in US for a financial institution as a consultant. So what I did was I drafted my own reference letter, I sent it to my manager, have them approve it, and once they approved it, have them sign it, date it and provide their contact information to validate it. And then I was able to upload that reference letter to the IRCC portal under my express entry application. Okay, so I'm going to show you how my letter looked like, and then we are going to compare it with the actual NOC code that I chose and then show you how they match. Okay, so Let's pull up the NOC code first. Because I worked as a business analyst, my NOC code was 2171. So I'm simply going to filter by that. Information system analysts and consultants. We just went over this. Okay. And now let me pull up my reference letter. Okay. So this is my reference letter from my manager. It clearly says, I am writing this letter at the request of Suyash Gautam, who is applying for permanent resident status for Canada. Suyash Gautam worked for this company as a business analyst on 2 consecutive assignments for one of our major financial clients. One from this date through this date, and the second from this date through this date. And during this period, he was a full-time employee of this company, working 40 hours per week at an hourly rate of this much. By the way, this is everything that I actually wrote, but it has to look like my manager has written it. So as long as my manager has approved of it and they are aware that this is going on behalf of them, it's fine. It's not a problem who really writes it, because they don't really have the time to write such a detailed letter for you. So you will most likely end up writing it for yourself on behalf of your manager and then them approving that. Okay. So in the summary, basically my manager explained that this letter is for permanent residents of Canada. This is the company. This is the time frame that I have worked, and this was my salary. And these are the requirements of reference letter for express entry. Okay. So I've fulfilled all those requirements here. Okay. Let's scroll down to the duties section. Okay. His job duties were as follows. Create business requirement documents, data flow and functional specification documents for automation of regulatory reports. Assist in design and implementation of internal, external financial reports. Facilitate daily communication between IT solution architects, developers, quality assurance analysts, and business users throughout the requirement analysis, design, deployment, and testing phases of the SDLC. So you might have already guessed it by now. My job duties look very, very similar to the job duties listed on the business analyst NOC code page. So let's quickly go there and check how it looks like. Confer with clients to identify document requirements. That was my first point. Conduct technical studies, conduct interviews, design, develop, integrate, test, implement information systems, business solutions. That was my third point. Design implementation of internal external financial reports, it's the same thing. Then conduct independent third-party reviews to assess quality assurance practices, software products and information systems. Facilitate daily communication between IT solution architects, developers, quality assurance analysts and business users. So this job description is similar to the job description of the NOC code that I have chosen, and that is why it was accepted and that is why it was approved. Okay, so that is why I wanted to show you the importance of using the duties on this page. These duties listed on the NOC code page should dictate what you write in your reference letter. Okay, they should mean the same even if the wording is different. Okay, so after the job duties section, here is the contact information, the title of the manager and their signature. Okay, and that is how you write a reference letter using your NOC code. I am going to link this letter in the description below as a template that is up for grabs, so it's free to download. Use that template to draft your own reference letter, and I hope it helps you create a clear and concise reference letter. Okay, alright, that was it for this video. If you're still struggling to locate your NOC code, then leave your job description or title in the comments below and I'll try to locate it for you and respond back. This is Suyash from Hit Submit and Canada. I'll see you in the next one. Until then, wear a mask, practice social distancing, get lots of vitamin D, and if someone tells you that vaccines are overrated, you have my permission to throw up partially digested curd rice in their face.